Good morning to whoever is listening. Welcome to this very brief sampling class. So, firstly, let's see what sampling is. I just wanted to do this so that, apart from the practical aspect, at least I have an understanding of what sampling is. So, what is audit sampling? Audit sampling is the use of an audit procedure on a selection of the items within an account balance or class of transaction. Let me take that again. Audit sampling is the use of an audit procedure on a selection of items within an account balance or class of transaction. So, in summary, this means audit sampling is the use of an audit procedure or an audit process on a selection of items within an account balance. And by account balance, let's say that is when you're picking samples from a trial balance. Let's use that. Then, or class of transactions. And if you're talking about class of transactions, let's say you're picking sampling from a ledger. So I hope I've made that more understandable. So it's the process of using audit procedures to pick sample from a trial balance or a ledger. Yeah. So the sampling method used should yield an equal probability that each unit in the sample could be selected. The intent behind doing so is to evaluate some aspects of the information. So audit sampling is needed when population sizes are large. That is when you have a large TB, or you have a ledger which there are a lot of transactions during the year or during the period. So audit sampling is needed when population sizes are large, since examining the entire population would be highly inefficient. So there are multiple ways to engage in audit sampling, including the methods noted below. So what I'm trying to tell you is that, let's say per se you have like a sample size of, like, let's say 36, yeah, 36. In an audit scenario, you'll be expected to work on all those six, because, do you get, it's actually not that much. But let's say you have per se 10, yeah, you have per se 10, okay, yeah. Then let's say you can pick sample from that 10. Hopefully it drops to 7 or it drops to 8. It depends on what the attribute picks for you, but we'll still get there. So let's quickly go to types of, or multiple ways to engage in audit sampling. So we have block sampling. A consecutive series of items are selected for review. Though this approach may be efficient, there is a risk that a block of items will not reflect the characteristics of the entire population. I've not done block sampling before. There is haphazard sampling. There's no structured approach to how items are selected. However, the person doing the selection will probably skew the selections, even if advently. So the selections are not truly random. Okay, I've not done haphazard sampling before. Personal judgment. Yes, I've done this one before. The auditor uses her own judgment to select items, perhaps favoring items that have larger monetary values or which appear to have a higher level of risks associated with them. So yeah, doing auditing most times, I would say we make use of personal judgment and MUS, but in situations of, like, say, trade receivables and payables, we mostly make use of personal judgment. You get, we select values of high, or we select high value items rather. So, amounts that have more risks. Yeah. So we don't want a situation where, let's say, you have a ledger filled with about 300 million, 200 million, 100 million, 50,000, 50,000, 100,000. Then you go and make use of your MUS. Then MUS picks, let's say, 300 million, now picks 50,000, 50,000, 100,000 for you. Probably because the 100,000s and the 50,000 are more in the ledger than the 300 million and 100 million. So we don't want a situation like that. So in situations like that, we make use of personal judgment. Yeah, then we also have random sampling. A random number generator is used to make selections. This approach is the most theoretical correct, but can require more time to make selections. It says a random number generator is used to make selections. So I guess this should fall in line with the main reason for this video, which is MUS sampling. So I feel this random should go with MUS, but let's see. Okay, yeah, before I even go far, MUS means monetary unit sampling, but we'll get there. Then we also have stratified sampling. It says the auditor splits the population into different sections, such as high value and low value, and then selects from each section. Well, I can classify this stratified under personal judgment too, though. It's still all the same thing. When you are picking based on sentiment, that's personal bias. So then lastly we have, is that lastly? Yes. Then lastly we have systematic sampling, which is selections are taken from the population at fixed intervals, such as every 20th item. This tends to be a relatively efficient sampling technique. Well, I don't really see this as efficient. Yeah, given the example that I gave, let's say you have a list of items of, let's say, 300 million, 300 million, 300 million, 300 million, 300 million. Then you now have like 100,000, 100,000, 100,000, like 30, 100,000. Then you also have like 50,000, 30, going down like that. And you make use of this, really be that efficient, because the high value items, which is more risk prone, are above. And let's say they are saying next 20th item. So my next 20th item may land on 100,000, the next 20th may still land on 50,000, may still land on 100,000. It's not that efficient. You get, so that is why I will go with random sampling and personal judgment. Those are my two. Yeah, random sampling and personal judgment. Yep. So I guess we are done with what sampling is. Yeah, sampling. Okay, let me just give it in brief words. Sampling to me is just um um, selecting a value or an amount out of a whole population of amounts, or selecting a number out of a whole population of numbers. So, okay, no, let me explain it in this other way. You have a class now, and you're trying to reduce the number of students in the class, or you're trying to represent the whole class with just 5 people. Do you get? That is how I see sampling. Sampling is like, okay, out of this chunk of numbers, or out of this chunk of data, I'm looking for, let's say, a particular sample size that will be able to represent the whole population of numbers. I guess that is how I see sampling. I don't know any other definitions someone else may give, but I guess that should be at least a little bit reasonable enough. Yeah. So I guess we're done with sampling definition. Then let's go to the topic for today, which is monetary unit sampling using Microsoft Excel. So monetary unit sampling, MUS, is a method of statistical sampling. It is a method of statistical sampling used to assess the amount of monetary misstatements that may exist in an account balance. Let me take that again. Monetary unit sampling, MUS, is a method of statistical sampling used to assess the amount of monetary misstatement that may exist in an account balance. And when I was explaining sampling, I classified account balance for you as, let's say, when you are picking sample from the trial balance. Yeah, that is when you have all the account here: trade payables, PP, trade receivables, prepayment, cash, income, expense, all that. So that's why I classify account balance. So this is sampling is used to assess the amount of monetary misstatements that may exist. And what is a misstatement? Misstatement is just like when your account is not showing a true and fair view of what it is supposed to be. That is, your account is either understated or your account is probably overstated. So that is misstatement when the figures that are being reported are not correct or accurate. So the method, also known as dollar unit sampling or probability proportional to size sampling, has been used for many years and is widely accepted among auditors. So many auditors apply MUS using essentially the same methods that were used before the invention of personal computers and spreadsheet software. This approach relies on printed tables that offer limited options. So furthermore, MUS requires calculations that introduce the possibility of error if made manually. Let me take that again. MUS requires calculations that introduce the possibility of error if made manually. So this is just like random sampling. So with current with current with current technology, yeah, auditors can use a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet that automates and enhances the use of MUS and reduces the chances of errors. Yeah, let's just skip that. So now, yeah, using MUS from here. Using MUS involves three key steps. This is the very important part. Using MUS involves three key steps, which is determining the proper sample size, that is one, selecting the sample and performing the audit procedures, that is two, and evaluating the results and arriving at a conclusion about the recorded population value. So this determining the proper sample size. Uh, okay, let me practicalize it out here so that it's more understandable. You know, some people like to explain first, then practicalize. I think it's best when you're seeing both of them at the same time. Okay, so yeah, let's go. So first, we want to address this first key step in monetary unit sampling, which is determining the sampling size. So let's quickly go straight into it. So I'm going to divide this into two. That is sampling from account balances and sampling from classes of transactions. So, okay, yeah. Okay, so let's start with account balances, which is our trial balance. So yeah, we have a trial balance or TB, whatever you may choose to call it. So you can see several account balances. We have property, plants, and equipment account balances, accumulated depreciation of property, plant, and equipment, balance, inventory, raw material, work in progress, finished good, and all that way to the end. So if you look at I guess before you can even make it up sampling, I guess you should have an idea or auditing knowledge. That is when you're making use of MES though. You should have an auditing knowledge of items that can be sampled. Not all items can be sampled in an audit or in an engagement. I think you have to get that. Now, examples of items that can't be sampled, or the major example is property, plant, and equipment. You can't sample property, plant, and equipment. That is from the trial balance. You can't sample it from the trial balance, except you are working on it. And the only aspect where you sample property, plant, and equipment is, let's say you want to do physical verification of assets. That is when you sample out of a huge list of assets. That is when you sample property, plant, and equipment. Or you also sample it when you're trying to vouch your additions in the year to property, plants, and equipment. That is your additions to fixed assets in the year. That is the only time you sample PPE. And that is when, okay, you can't vouch 100% or you can't verify 100% rather. That is when you're collecting invoices, delivering notes that, okay, yeah, these assets that they said that they have as additions to PPE really exist in the year. So let's not really go deep into that. Just know you can't sample PPE from the TB. You can't sample inventory from the table. You definitely can sample trade receivables, other receivables, definitely staff receivables, definitely due from affiliates, that is intercompany, definitely advance to suppliers. You can't sample prepayment from the table. But for the case of this prepaid items, I guess you can sample this, yeah. For the case of this, because literally have this. So I guess you can use personal judgment here. If you were to use personal judgment here, which will you pick? For me, yeah, I'll make use of these two, one and two. Yeah, make use of those two. Then cash balance, you can't sample cash balance. Yeah, you can't do that. 100%. Equity, no. 100%. Deferred tax liability, no. 100%. Other liabilities, 100%. Trade payables, yeah, you can sample. Other payables, you can sample. Duty affiliates, you can sample. Deferred income, you can sample. Tax, you can't sample. Revenue from the TB, you can't sample, but when you're working on it, you can sample it. Staff costs from the TB, which is under admin, no, you can't sample it. And you have to know this. When you're picking samples from your cost of sales and your administrative expenses, there are some certain items that is inevitable. It has to be in your sample. So you can't add it to your sample population size because one way or the other you have to work on it. So you can't add it to your sample population size. Examples of that is purchases account, purchases local. This relates to your sales revenue. So you have to work on that compulsorily. Salaries and allowance, which is your payroll, you have to work on it. Salaries and wages factory, you have to work on it compulsory. There's no two way about it. Depreciation on plant and machinery, you have to work on it, no two way about it. Sales commission, you have to work on it. It's coming from revenue sales, no two way about it. One, two, three, you have to work on it. It's compulsory. That is salary, sales promotion, sales commission. Staff welfare, yeah, it relates to your payroll. You have to work on it compulsory. Directors' fees, you have to work on it compulsory. Which other? Audit fee, you have to work on it compulsory. Depreciation, yeah, you have to work on it also compulsory. ITF, you have to work on this also. Industrial Training Fund, you have to work on this also. Is also compulsory because it's a statutory payment, and I guess this is a provision for it. So you have to work on it compulsory. Yeah, so those are the compulsory aspects of administrative expenses and cost of sales that you have to work on, which you have to exclude from your sample because it's already part of your major sample size. Do you get? So sample population or makeup, whatever you call it. So since we have done that, so let's say we are picking sample from trade receivables. That takes a lot of time. So let's say you're picking sample from trade receivables. Let's just separate this from the whole TB. Yeah. So you're picking samples now for your trade receivables. So we are dealing with this year, 2021. Yeah, this is 2021 and this is 2020. Yeah. So let's say we're dealing with 2021. Yeah. So I'm making use of this side of the Excel. This is the amount, this is the description. So the first thing you have to do is to determine your population size. And in determining your population size, I will advise you to do it this way. I will advise you to do it this way. Give me a sec. Here's my MUS. It's my attribute. Yeah. Let's remember. The first key item is determining the proper sample size. Determining the proper sample size. Or I say determining your population. So what is that? Yeah. So in determining your population, so this is the whole population we want to work with. This. So let's take this to our MUS and put it here. Yeah. So this is the whole population we want to work with. But we can't work with all this because we have some balances that are 0, 0, 0, which is very, very immaterial. So the first thing we do is to sort by item recorded amount, which is B, and we do largest to smallest. Yeah. Then after doing that, scroll down. You see, we have some zero balances, 0, 0, 0. Definitely we can't work on this, so we have to take it out. So once you have done that, then we get our population size. So what is our population size? Sorry, our population size now is 36. I hope you do understand. Our population size is 36. This is the population that we now want to pick sample on after eliminating the zero balances or the below minimum balances, which are those zeros. So this is now our population size, which is 36. Let me move faster. Then after determining our population size, then we come to our attributes. And what is your attribute for? Your attribute is to determine your sample size. So what is the population size? We got 36. What is the risk of incorrect acceptance? 20%. That's what we've set it for. So it says by the size, it says complement of confidence. For example, enter 10 for 90% confidence level. So they are telling you to put 10% risk of incorrect acceptance. That is if you have 90% confidence level in the sample population from which you are picking from. That means there are low risk probabilities or low risk areas in what you're picking from. Then we have maximum tolerable deviation rates. For example, they are telling you enter 5.0 for 5% maximum tolerable deviation rate. Okay, for the case of audits, I'll just advise you to go with 2010, 2010, 2010. I'll just advise you to go with 2010. Yeah, for the case of audits, I'll just advise you to go with 2010. That's what we'll make use of most of the time. But let me do a quick recap before I rush into everything. Yeah. So what is MUS? MUS is a method of statistical sampling used to assess the amount of monetary misstatement that may exist in an account balance. So our aim is to what? Our aim is to what? To assess the amount of monetary misstatement that may exist in an account balance or class of transaction. To assess the amount of monetary misstatement. That is overstatement or understatement. Yeah. So now we have our population size, which we got from the TB. We're picking samples on trade receivables. Yeah. And after getting our population out of TB, we came to our MUS selection under population and we placed them here. Then don't forget, we sorted out highest to lowest values and we eliminated the zero values, which I said to be below minimum barrier. So after that, we came here to make use of our attributes to get our sample size after getting our population size. And how do we get our population size? Most times I advise you to use amount than to use description. So we got our population size by knowing the total number of amounts we want to sample from, which is 36. And that's what we put here. Let me put that again, 36. So once you put your 36 into this place and press enter on your keypad, it automatically selects your sample size. Okay, let's say our sample size is 100 now. Enter. Let's say our population size rather is 100. Your sample size is 15. So now our population size is 36, sample size is 13. So I advise you to do this. Once you have gotten your attribute, you copy it out for the sake of all this. You copy it out. Yeah, let's call this attributes. Then you paste it here for the sake of review. Yeah, so this is your attribute. We have gotten our sample size now. I hope you understand this aspect. I hope so. Then after getting our sample size, the next thing is to get our sample items. So how do we get our sample items? We make use of our MUS. But before we make use of MUS, you know it is called monetary unit sampling. But let's go back to this. So I'll do a quick recap for you. Skip. I'm looking for where they call it dollar. So, where are we? That's that. Sorry for the little delay. Is that? I seem not to find it. So let me just use my knowledge. So it is called monetary unit sampling. It's not just called monetary unit sampling for let's say for namesake. It's called monetary unit sampling because you actually make use of money to do this sampling. And what do I mean by making use of money? This is our 50 naira note here in Nigeria. Yeah. So this is our 50 naira note. I don't know if you can see my screen. I hope so. So this is a 50 naira note. So we'll make use of this number, this, in getting our MUS. Okay. So now we're about to get our MUS. Yeah, enable content. So you click on start. What is our sample size? I'm sure you have forgotten. Let me remind you. Our sample size is 13. How do we get our sample size from our population size? By imputing 36 here. Sorry. Imputing 36 here. It gave us our sample size, which is 13. So this is our sample size. You see, dollar unit sampling, but you actually make use of money. So now they're telling you to make use of an 8-digit random number of any currency. So which I'll most advise you to use a 50 naira note. Yeah. So we want to make use of 8 digits random number from any currency. So we're making use of our 50 naira. So what is our 8-digit now? This has just 7 digits exclusive of the alphabet. It has 7 digits. So you always end with a 0 for the basis of audit. So Random number, monetary random number is 2953982. 2953982. Then it means one more number, 0. You can't go beyond 8 numbers. Abi it's 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 8. You can't go beyond 8 number. It states it here, 8-digit random number. You can't go beyond 8 because if you go beyond 8, this is what happens. Number must not be greater. Yeah. So let's get that number again. 295 39827. So what is going to happen right now is that this software or this Excel sheet, some things have been done to it, some formulas and all that. But what is going to happen now is that this is going to determine our sample selection, the sample balances that's going to represent the whole class of numbers or the whole class of amount. Like I said earlier, sample is like picking out 5 students from a class of 30 that should represent that class, saying that, okay, if I'm to determine the intelligence level of this class, I'm going to base my, I'm going to cut down my sample size to these 5 people, and these 5 people should determine the level of intelligence of this class. So that's what this is going to do now. It's saying that, yeah, we had a class of 36, but out of 36, we use our attribute to get our sample size. The attribute gave us a sample size of 13. And this 13 does not necessarily mean that it's going to pick 13 amounts. That is the essence of this MUS. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to pick out 13 amounts. So let's see what it gives us. Yeah, so these are the balances that were selected. This is let's say this is 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, like I said, doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to give you 13 amount. So we have this. This is okay. Before we do that, we have to copy this out. Copy, don't forget to copy out. Where is our trial balance? Yes. So let's call this MUS. Yes. So we have this now. This is our sample size. Very fast, quick recap. We're picking sample from trade receivables. We want to know the level of material misstatements in trade receivables. And this is our whole population. After getting our whole population, we decided to get our population size after excluding below minimum amounts, which are 0 points amount. And we determined that our population was 36. That is after excluding 1, 2, 3, 3 0 amounts, which is 1, 2, and 3. We got our population size, which is 36, and we made use of our attributes. We put 36 here. We have 20% rates of incorrect acceptance and 10% maximum tolerable deviation rate. And after doing that, we got our attributes, or let's say our sample size. That's the purpose of making use of your attribute, to get your sample size. So after getting our sample size, we copy this out and we created a sheet for it for trade receivables, and we put it here as a basis of evidence for the person reviewing. Then after getting our sample size, we moved ahead to get our MUS. But let's not forget that your population must always be here. There's input, there's population, and there's tested sum. So this is where you put your population. I always advise you to sort it, not just for the purpose of eliminating 0 balances, but just for the purpose of so that when you actually make use of the MUS, this comes out in higher values first before lower values. It doesn't affect the sample size or the sample selection. It's just for it to come out higher values first. Yeah. Then we imputed our sample size here and our 8-digit random number, which we got from monetary, monetary currency, which I said we should mostly use 59 note, which is this. These are 7 digits. We add 0 at the end, select sample, and that's how we arrived at this sample selection. Copy this out to our sheet, created a sheet for MES, put it here. So you don't just end here. The main purpose is to know what you're going to work on from this whole population of trade receivables. So once you're done with that, copy, control find. So we're working on this. Now we know what we're going to work on, or what we're going to request for documents on, or request for the ledgers on. So we have this and this. So that is how you go on and you highlight what you're going to work on. So you need this when you are creating your audit request. So we just go on like that, like that. So I've highlighted everything from what the MES picked. Yeah. So that is that on sampling of account balances. Yeah. I hope we get this part. Now, there is no the class of transaction that will work on. Then now sampling on classes of transactions, security, expense, ledger. Now this is after we have already picked sample from the trial balance. So this is after we picked sample from the trial balance. I'm not going to run through the method of picking sample again. I'm just going to go straight into it from here. So here we have our debit, our credit. The first thing you should identify is what side of the ledger am I picking my sample for. So security expense is under administrative expense, which is a debit balance. So your sample should come from your debit side, but it doesn't mean that you should not pay attention to the credit side, because we are auditing. So we are trying to understand what is going on in this ledger, what happened during the year. That is the main purpose. So first, what do? We determine our population size. So our population size is 449. So after determining that, you copy it out, like I said, copy it out to your MES selector under population. Yeah, we have to clear this out. So we copy it out to your MES selection, identify selector rather. Yeah, we have done that. And the next thing we're going to do is to sort. We pick some items that had credit balances. So what we're going to do is we're going to sort by item recorded amount, which is B, largest to smallest. So this is still the process of determining your population size. We clear this out. Since we have this now, so what is our population size? Our population size 149. Then we go to our attributes to determine our sample size 149. Our sample size is 15. I'm moving faster because I've taken time to explain this. Then we create a sheet for that. Attribute sample size is 15. Now we want to get our sample item. So we have a sample size of 15. So we come here, we already have our population here. Come to input. What is our sample size? 15. Don't forget 15. What is our 8-digit random number? Don't forget your 59 notes. 295 295 295 3982 3982, then 0, make it 8. After doing that, we click select sample and This is our sample selection. So it selected how many? That is selected 15. Yeah. So that's why I said earlier, sometimes it may not necessarily select up to 15. That's your sample size. So we have this here. So now we know what we're working on. All we need to do next is just highlight it on our ledger. Okay, this is what we're working on and all that. So that's how it goes on. But there may be some situations um, where the descriptions may be the same or the amounts may be the same. In situations like that, I think you have to devise another means of identifying which is which. But since it's the same amount, it's still cool. So we have gotten sample selection for debit balance, which is what we're supposed to work on. So now, apart from that, we also want to understand what is on the credit side, what was taken out of this expense ledger. So for this, we ask questions. We ask the client, but first we have to know if this credit balance is material enough to pick sample on. So this is 24. It's actually material enough. So we run the same process, that is Ctrl Shift down to select it, highlight. So run the same process. So let's call this credit balance. And let's call this debit balance. I hope you do understand. Oh shit. Good. Okay. Yeah, I've messed this up. This is supposed to be our MUS. This is debit balance. Yeah. And this is, no, let me not do it this way. Okay, let me call it this MUS for debit. I'm going to have a MUS for credit. I'm also going to have an attribute for debit and an attribute for credit. So it's the same process. Because of this video, I don't want to waste time. Yeah. So it's the same process. You select from your credit side. Yeah, come down. Select from your credit side. Go up. Take it to your MUS population sheet. Down, Ctrl V. Okay. Ctrl V. Then we sort. To determine our population size. All these are empty, so clear this out. So what's our population size? Population size is 24. Attributes 24. We have our sample size. Sample size is 12. Go back to our ledger. Attribute for credit balance is sample size is 12. Come back to our MES selector. Sample size 12. 8-digit random number from currencies 295, 295, 295, 3982, 3982. Do that. This is 12. Yeah, it's also picked 12 again. So this is our sample selection, MUS credit. So this is what we're going to work on from the credit side of our ledger. And credit side in expense means what something was taken out. So you have to understand what was taken out. It could be that something was reversed, or it could also be a mistake. They mistakenly posted something to this account on the credit side. So you have to ask the client. So we have that. So I guess that is that on sampling. You just go on like that. So for the sake of time, for the sake of time, um, for the sake of time, I don't think I have time to complete this um, PDF sheet, which is reading out this. But I guess practical speaks a lot better than theoretical. I don't even know if this will even help. I didn't even read through it. I only just needed the definition. So that is that on sampling. So thank you for following. I hope you understood, and yeah, have a nice day. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask me. Yeah, thanks.